My name is Beatrix Arosei, and I'll be hosting this podcast where we are having a conversation about violence prevention, peace building ahead of the 2027 general election, and especially the role of the youth in these processes. And I have my panelists, and I'm giving them a chance to introduce themselves. We can start with Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek Chestit. I work with MIDRIFT Human Rights Network as a program officer in the Department of Peace Building and Conflict Transformation. I also participated as a participant under the Norec exchange program. In Uganda, I was attached to an organization called Justice Access Point. I was there for a year, and it was amazing. Thank you for welcoming me.
Thank you, Derek. And Terry?
I am Teresa Abel. I also work at MIDRIFT Human Rights Network as a monitoring and evaluation officer, and I also support their programs department. So I'm also a participant of the Norec exchange program hosted by the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation in South Africa.
And you've mentioned about Norec. Please tell us a little bit about Norec.
So Norec is an abbreviation for the Norwegian Agency for Exchange Cooperation. And this program allows young professionals to gain international experience in what they do. So we had a consortium of 4 organizations in Africa. That is MIDRIFT Human Rights Network from Kenya, Children Education Society in Tanzania, Justice Access Point in Uganda, and the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation. So how this program works, it just allows young people to be hosted in different organizations to share learnings and best practices that can be replicated back in their countries.
Oh, thank you very much. And with that, I'd want to ask you, what's the state of governance, especially in East Africa and Southern Africa, considering that you were in South Africa and Derek was in Uganda?
I'll speak about the Eastern Africa because I was in Uganda and mostly I focused on Eastern African issues of governance and politics. I see that there is retreat of democracy in Eastern Africa. Tunaona kwamba kule Uganda Uncle Sebo, tunamuita hivyo, Museveni, amekuwa kwa utawala for 46 years. Na katika hiyo utawala yake utapata kwamba watu wamegandamizwa sana. There's a lot of dictatorship. Ukikuja pale Tanzania, Mama Samia Suluhu ambaye alituita viumbe, pia yeye uliona vile kulikuwa na ghasia huko. Hata tulikuwa tuende mkutano huko, lakini juu ya ghasia tukuweza kwenda. Ukikuja hapa Kenya utapata kwamba tumekuwa na maandamano, especially the Gen Z protest, and there was a lot of abduction, forced disappearance. So I see there's a lot of retreat of democracy in East Africa. Na sisi kama vijana, we need to be vigilant. We need to fight for our freedoms and ensure that there's good governance and democracy in East Africa.
Thank you very much. In the Southern Africa?
Things are not very different, especially in the entire African continent.
Yeah.
So the dynamics, the political dynamics in East Africa are almost the same in the Southern African countries. And maybe I can just share a few examples, like in South Africa, where I have been living for the last 1 year. The state of democracy is, how can I say, it's almost more theoretical than very practical, because you can see young people complaining about issues of bad governance, misallocation of resources, poor use of public funds. And these are issues that we also see in our country, even in East Africa. And then most people are moving from Zimbabwe, for instance, migrating to South Africa because of the issues of governance. They don't feel secure in their own country. And these issues are really affecting cross-border relations. For instance, when I was there were issues of foreigners being chased away from South Africa. And these are matters of governance. So how I can say is that there's still a lot that needs to be done in the entire African continent.
Okay, I think another question maybe that I'd ask, borrowing from the East African and Southern Africa, what is it that we can learn as young people in Kenya, especially as we prepare towards the 2027 general election? Because I'm thinking so many things are happening in Uganda, in Tanzania, in South Africa. What are those things that we can learn, the best practices for us to ensure that our elections are peaceful?
I think young people need to begin taking initiative in participating in democratic processes, not only in voting, but also in holding leaders accountable, as well as joining political parties. You see now, once they join political parties, they are able to influence decisions and shape the political space in a manner that is more developmental and people-centered. So I think young people need to take up these spaces so that they can shape the political landscape in a manner that is different from what we are used to, because we are not satisfied with how things are. So we need to take a chance and make a difference.
Thank you. Derek, do you have anything to add on that?
Unfortunately, in Uganda, we cannot talk about best practices because as Kenya, we are much ahead than Uganda. So we can only talk about lessons learned, that in Kenya, we enjoy democracy as much as there is a lot of clawing back on the gains we've made in terms of democracy. There is that element of some people want to take us back to the dark days of Moi era or Nyayo era. But in Uganda, you see there is a lot of cracking down on dissenting voices. So in terms of lesson learned is that we should ensure that our constitution, we advocate for full implementation. We fight for the freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, all the liberties that the constitution provides for us. It's very important. And like Uganda and Tanzania, in Kenya, we at least enjoy those freedom, and we should continue fighting for them.
Okay, thank you very much. And you've brought about something about voting and that. What is it that the youth can do besides voters for them to change the political or to shape the political landscape of the country? I know you've talked about joining political parties. What is it that you think that youth can do beyond voting to shape the governance?
I think beyond voting, as youth, we should go for those positions. Like we should vie for presidency, we should vie for women rep, for governor and senate and all the elective positions. We can only drive our agenda when we are at the table. We cannot be pushing and we are not at the table where decisions are made. So to apart from sisi kupiga kura, tusimame kura, tupigie our fellow youths kura, tusikwe tuseme tunaambiwa sisi ni viongozi wa kesho. Wakati wetu ni sasa. Kama si sasa ni sasa hivi.
Sawa. So beyond politics now, what is it that the youth and probably youth-led movements can do to bridge the gap between ethnicity, the political divide, the economic divide, and also the social divide?
I think youths and youth networks need to focus more on initiatives that bring people together, When the Gen Z demonstrations took place, they were saying they were tribeless and leaderless. And I think that was a very, positive move, because now we were looking at each other not from tribal lenses, but from the lenses of this is a fellow citizen. And I think having initiatives that bring people together, like sports for peace and development, is something that can help bridge this gap. Like the initiatives implemented by MIDRIFT, where even the police officers play sports and football together with young people, and you find that they get to interact from a human point of view, and they don't see each other as a police and a citizen, they see each other as Kenyans. So I think just leaning more on initiatives that promote peace, social cohesion, and bringing different communities together is something that needs to be prioritized.
Okay.
Yeah, in my opinion, is that youth, we should be at the center of bridging the gap, especially when it comes to tribalism. You find that our parents and our grandparents, they are traumatized by tribalism and the ethnic clashes that happened during their time. But during our time, we do not have such things. So we should be the one bringing the community together to ensure that there is cohesion. We should be the one leading dialogues. Sisi ndio tunasema we don't want tribalism, like the youth said in 2024 that we are tribeless. Our tribe is Kenya. So we should be focusing on that and also leading the conversation in the community as peace builders.
Okay.
And I think if I can add to what Derek has said, sometimes I'm tempted to think that the youths really are not tribal. This issue is kind of inherited, it's more of a cycle that we need to break as youths, because you hear maybe you grew up in an environment where you're told, do not get married to this tribe are like this, these tribes are like that, and it shapes the mindset of you grow up seeing people as a Kikuyu, as Mkisi, which is something that needs to change. So I think it's very important that youths take up this initiative of changing the narrative from inheriting this cycle of tribalism, how the previous generations were seeing things from a tribal lens to a lens that sees things from, a more wider lens.
I agree with you guys. And something that we also need to maybe have a discussion about is the fact that once the political class start regrouping, what form does it take? Is it issue-based or is it tribal-based? Because at the moment we are talking about usiguze mrima, sindio?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kuna cousins, kuna that. But at the end of the day, as much as we want to do that, then how do we also use technology to bring this together? Or instead of speaking hate and also sparking hate among the tribes, because that is already happening. We would want to say that there's no tribalism, but it's already happening. We are cousins, sindio? Sisi ni cousins. Tuko hivyo. So what is it that we can do as youth? How do we use technology to ensure that we are bringing cohesion and that? Because as what happened in 2024, the protest, we mobilized through
Online.
So it is a powerful tool, but it can be used for both positive or negative. What is it that you can say about that and also the tribalism? I think because right now we are going to that direction. Yeah, we are seeing the Luos and the Kikuyus coming together, and then we are seeing the Kalenjin and
It is the Kalenjins and Luos coming together.
Yes, Kalenjin and Luos coming together, sidelining Kikuyus, and Kikuyus are here mobilizing the cousins. So at the end of the day, there are so many things to be done when it comes to that. And how can we use technology to address that?
Okay. I think leveraging on technology to address the tribal narratives is something that is really important. And I can't agree more with you on that. And I think we need to come up with models. Right now AI is just everywhere. And as we say, when changes come, you need to embrace them. So I think we can leverage on AI as a tech that can be used to counter hate speech and negative narratives online. How can this work? AI has different models, and these models are used to serve different purposes. So we can come up with a model that can be used to monitor what is happening online in the public space. And AI, it uses the information that you feed it to give you feedback of what you want. So this model can maybe have terms that can be used to flag out hate speech narratives in the social media spaces and in the public domain. And then now we use those words and those spaces, and we now come up with narratives that counter this negative messaging. And then now using those very same platforms, we now disseminate positive narratives that speak to umoja na undugu as Kenyans.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we should reach more to the youth through social media. You find that most youth, if you walk around, you'll find them with their phone. Most of the time, they're either in TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, or Twitter. So it's a platform that we can use to sensitize the youth. Tuongee mambo ya kupambana na tribalism. We need to address issues of governance. We use to understand, even tukikuwa na hizo policies that the government inapitisha. For example, the finance bill. You see, last time it was through social media where people were educated. We used the social media to even translate in local and native languages, and then it reached so many people. So through social media, we can push our narratives. We can talk about social change and the political agenda as youth that we were pushing towards 2027 general election.
Thank you. And another question I'd want to ask, and especially when you go to the mainstream media, there is the Vernacular radio station. What role is it that it plays? And how is it that we can get our youth to also go to the Vernacular stations to preach that peace, because at the end of the day, you'll hear most of the vernacular stations are the ones who are perpetuating the hate between. So when they are talking to Kikuyus, what is it that they are telling Kikuyus? When they are talking to Kalenjin, Luos, Kikamba, what is it that they are telling them? Because I think that is also somewhere that the youth have also left. Like that vernacular stations, it's mostly run by the older generation. So how is it that we can also work with them?
I think the vernacular stations play a very key role in ensuring that the message reaches everybody. Of course, English and Kiswahili are our national languages, but not everybody is conversant with them. Kuna wale wenye wamezoea lugha ya mama. Na sasa hizi stations zenye zinaongea lugha ya mama, they're very important because at least nobody's left out. They bring an aspect of inclusivity. Kila mtu anapata information. But then what you've said is very true. Sometimes these stations, they twist the message and they kind of radicalize people who are listening to these messages. So I think as youths, we need to not alienate ourselves from these vernacular radio stations. Tunafaa tuende hapo. If possible, we can even have translators. If we don't understand our vernacular language, they can translate what is being said, and we can ensure that at least we are giving a message that is speaking of facts, and positivity in our involvement in politics.
Mi nafikiri kwamba those vernacular station, both TV and radio, we should be part of it as youth. Unapata kwamba kama Wamunyoro, wakati yako emotional anaitanga Inoro TV ama those radio station that speak the language of the mountain. Unapata kwamba jamii wa Kalenjin, wabunge, wakitaka kuongea kitu wanaenda Chamge FM. Wanataka kuzungumza mambo yao. Sasa pia ukipata pile ODM ama watu wa Nyanza watenda Ramogi FM. Lakini tumeachia wanasiasa hizi vernacular station. Sisi kama youth tuna concentrate sana kwa hizi station ambazo zinacheza music ambayo tutasikiza kama ni hip hop, genge ama Niger song ama piano. So tunadharau sana, tumeachia wanasiasa vernacular station. Lakini unapata kwa jamii wanasemanga if you want to speak to the hearts of the people, speak to their mother tongue. So sisi pia tunafaa tuende tuongee those mother tongues in our local radio station so that we can reach even the local people and those people who do not understand English or Swahili. Yeah.
And by the way, maybe this goes to the youths. Embracing your culture, your language, si ushamba. It's just, we have to appreciate our cultural diversity and where we come from, because that is what makes us who we are. So embracing our tribes, our languages, our different cultural representations, it's a good thing. And it defines who we are. Okay. So we need to hold on to it, but we can't let it define who we are and how we perceive things. Yes.
Okay, I think we are about to conclude, and I'd want to ask you if there's something, if like a collective thing that you'd want the youth to do going into the 2027 election, what is it that you'd want for them, the agenda? Because at the end of the day, the agenda that the youth are following right now is being set by the political elite. What is it that the agenda of the youth going into 2027?
The agenda of the youth, and I think when I say this, I'm speaking on behalf of so many other youth voices, is that we want credible elections. We are tired of hearing the narratives of, ata tufanye nini, bado kura zitaibiwa. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to believe that. We want to believe that IEBC has been entrusted with the mandate to ensure that we have credible and genuine elections. We need to see that in 2027. And to our leaders who are vying for political seats, asiyekubali kushindwa, si mshindani. Kama imekataa, imekataa. Tupatane 2032. If you haven't received the votes, accept it and go home peacefully. We want a peaceful Kenya, and that is our message as young people.
Sisi kama vijana tukielekea 2027, kitu ya kwanza tunaweza fanya ni tukue na irreducible minimums to those people who want us to elect them. One of them, tuseme the constitution must be implemented fully. Hakuna mambo ya kusema ati this chapter cannot be implemented. Nakumbuka kwamba saizi tunaweza recall MCAs, lakini hatuwezi recall wabunge, sababu there is no act ambayo imetengenezwa ya kurecall wabunge. They have avoided that. So we want somebody who can implement the constitution. Ya pili, we want somebody who can ensure equitable distribution of resources. Unapata kwamba kuna hii narrative kwamba mtu wa jamii yetu akikuwa rais, maendeleo mingi itakuja. Vile huwa tunaambiwa maendeleo mingi ilienda Mount Kenya sababu rais wa kwanza alikuwa anatoka huko. Rais wa tatu wa Kenya akatoka huko, wa nne. Tunataka tukue na uongozi ambayo sisi hatujali ni kabila gani anaongoza. Sisi kama youth tutapata maendeleo, ijalishi we ni kabila gani, we Mturkana, we Mjaluo, Mkikuyu ama Mkisii.
Asante sana Derek na Terry. One thing I also want to say, Moi alikuwa president for how many years? 24, sindio? Baringo kukoaje? So we can't even though some of the narratives ambazo tunafaa kuzifight kwa sababu tunasema as much as the president comes from a different certain community, tunafaa kujua development inafaa kuwa Kenya mzima. Si hivyo. Na hizo ndo vitu ambazo tunafaa kufanya, na vile Derek anasema full implementation of the constitution. That is what we need to be fighting for. And I think maybe we have 2 minutes left, and I'd want to give you a chance for closing remarks. Yeah.
Okay. My closing remark is that going 2027, we should be peaceful. Sisi kama vijana, we should lead the agenda. We should come up with things that we want to be done, so that these political parties can put it as their manifesto. Tukifika wakati wa uchaguzi, tuangalie hii chama ama huyu ambaye anasimama tukielekea uchaguzi, ni mambo gani ambaye ameconsider ambaye inatugoza sisi kama vijana, because tunajua sisi kama vijana ndio tuko vulnerable when it comes to socio-economic issue. We are the one who are at risk. You find that most youths are unemployed. There is a ratio of unemployment. And we should ensure that there is zero tolerance to corruption.
Thank you very much, Derek. Terry?
As I close, I have a message for the youth. 1, let us ensure that we register as voters. 2, tusimalizie hapo kwa kuregister. Let us stand up in numbers and vote. That is our democratic right. And number 3, tusimalizie hapo kwa kuvote. Let us ensure that we hold our leaders accountable. Sisi ndo tumewapatia hiyo kazi, and they need to do exactly what they are supposed to do as mandated by the seat. So as I conclude, I would also like to call upon the young people to ensure that they read this book. This is our Bible, and we need to understand it from the first page to the last page, because that's the only way we will know our rights as Kenyans, as young people, and as people who want to change how things are done in our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that is the end of our discussion. I think we can have this discussion over and over, because at the end of the day, we cannot exhaust all the issues that we wanted to raise here. So we look forward to coming here again for more conversation. Thank you.